Warning. The United States government says to copy this videotape is against the law. The FBI will come after you and put you in jail if you do. We don't use those tactics. We are Louisiana. Meet Pierre. Pierre is in every video cassette, and any copying result in Pierre getting loose in your home. Pierre? Pierre? Oh, no, not me, Pierre. I didn't do the tape. No, Pierre. Oh, please. I'll never touch it again. Oh, no, Pierre.
Oh, hi there. Caught me early in the morning. My hair's not combed. Getting ready to have our workout program, and you know, you always procrastinate, and you can't even say the word, and you even do that. They say, I don't want to exercise today, but let's go. Come on. Let's start our workout program this morning, because if we don't do it today, we're just not going to do it. Well, let's begin. Up, back, up, back, up, back, up, back. I didn't say it was going to be a tough workout program, but it's going to be a workout program nevertheless. And what am I doing in my kitchen this early in the morning? Having fun. I beginning by waking up by having a little cafe au lait and beignets. Exactly what are beignets? Well, beignets are little square donuts. Some people call them beignets, the ones without any holes in the middle. We call them beignets. And what I've done is I've taken some flour, an egg, cup of milk, some yeast, and made a dough. Allowed the dough to rise for an hour in a nice warm oven, taking it out. So tired early in the morning. Taking it out, put it down on a nice floured surface, rolled out this, and allowed it to rise just a little bit longer to where we are now. And now I can place my beignets in hot oil. You have to be careful. This is early in the morning, so you don't want to burn your little fingers here. While I'm doing this, let me talk about cafe au lait. You know, Nolans is famous for its coffee and chicory. Exactly what is chicory? Well, chicory is the root of the endive, mostly grown in Europe. It's dried and ground, and added to the coffee is an enhancer. And there are all types of different types of coffees. We can use it in really any type of coffee maker. In fact, there's even now instant coffee and chicory. When I talk about instant coffee and chicory, look how instant that is, right there in your hand. You take your favorite cup. In one pot, what we're doing is we're scalding the milk. Not scolding the milk. That would be, come on, milk, get ready. Come on, how come you aren't up and didn't scald yet? That's scalding your milk, but we're just scalding it. Heating up nice little, not boil, but the nice skin forms on top. And we want to add these at the same time. But before you add it, give it a little stir with either a wire whisk or a fork to aerate it. That's really the secret to cafe au lait. Equal parts poured in at the same time. Whew. By now, our beignets are just about ready. We're just going to turn these little things here. Turn them once. Another couple of seconds on that side. Begin drinking the coffee in one hand, removing the beignets with the other hand. And when the beignets are done, what we're going to do is take the beignets, sprinkle them with powdered sugar. Now, again, in our workout program, we want to do this before we take our shower because this is the real messy part. You can get all your kitchen really messy on this one. Whew. Then all you have to do, drink some cafe au lait, eat some beignets, and I'm telling you, this is the day we start our workout. Built in 1891 between Jackson Square and the Mississippi River, the Jackson Brewery cost $200,000 and brewed beer until 1974. Recent renovations to turn the brew house into a riverfront marketplace topped $15 million. Inside the Jack's Brewery, as it is now known, you will find unique gift shops, current fashions, jewelry, and food, including the New Orleans School of Cooking and Louisiana General Store. Creole. What is Creole? Quite simply, Creole is the French corruption of the Spanish word criollo, child or children of the colony. The reason the word Creole stuck is that we were first French, but it just meant the native born, the children of the colony. As a food style, however, it's the mixture of every ethnic group that has ever been in a city. It's a mixture as a base form of Indian, French, Spanish, and African cuisine, but now it's all of us. Creole is a lifestyle, as a people, well, it's Nolans. Take a look. This is Creole. First, you make a roux. You know, that's not only a way of life down here, it's also the name of a cookbook from Lafayette, but also it's that thing that strikes fear in the heart of everyone who gets into the kitchen and they're afraid of this one little step. And yes, it can be tricky, but let me give you a couple of good tips. Number one, roux used to be made in a very long, drawn-out manner over a low or medium heat. Flour was added to the oil, stirred constantly until a very dark brown. But now, because we can raise and lower our heat so easily, I'm doing what's known as the quick roux. And the quick roux is going to be a very quick 2 or 3 minute roux, but you've got to be careful. You see the smoke rising. Please take precautions. You should have a long sleeve shirt. You should have a glove. And I know I do a lot of kidding around, but this is the type of thing that you don't want as a roux burn. It's like a candy burn. It's going to stick to you. As Paul Prudhomme, the great Cajun chef, says, it's like Cajun napalm share. So please be careful. After your oil is very hot and smoking, gradually add the flour to the oil and stirring constantly, about a third at a time. If the first rule of making a quick roux is wearing a long sleeve shirt, your second rule is take your phone off the hook. You can't stop this for anybody because if you stop stirring, you're liable to scorch. It's liable to have some scorch. You cannot salvage a scorched roux. You've got to throw it all away. You've got to stir constantly. I can do this, really, I'm doing this in a cast iron skillet, but I can do this in any type of skillet, except skillets that are coated. I don't want to do it in Teflon or Silverstone, or even enamel I find is very difficult to do, so I want to do it in a metal skillet. The heavier the skillet to me, the better, but I can do it in a lighter skillet. But you know, cast iron skillets, well, this is a skillet that was given to me by my wife's grandmother, and it means something. I've got confidence in doing the roux, and I have confidence that this is so well seasoned that nothing is going to stick and burn. What is exactly a roux? Well, a roux is a combination of flour and, in my case, it's flour and oil, but it also can be flour and butter. Our flour and butter roux are basically used as a base of our cream sauce, our gravies, and used as a thickening agent. However, when I bring the temperature up so high that it's smoking, I can't use butter because the butter would burn before the flour browns. So I'm using oil. I can use lard. I can use bacon drippings. I can use even something more hearty than an oil. What color do we want to achieve depends on what our finished product is going to be. An étouffée or a sauce piquante may get one color. A gumbo may get another color. I'm going to cook this to a nice dark chocolate brown. And a lot of people at this stage get very excited. I'm afraid I'm going to burn it. As long as you keep it moving, you're not going to burn it. I'm using a wire whisk because I feel it's safer than a wooden spoon. And if you get a wire whisk, at least get a good professional one with a nice handle and a long one. Again, you don't want anything to splash on you. The roux serves three reasons, or three purposes actually. Number one, the longer you cook it, the darker it gets, is going to influence the color of a final product. Number two, the darker it gets, the more smoky or nut-like flavor. When you taste white flour, it tastes pasty. When you taste flour that has been cooked out, it's a nut-like flavor. And cooking it over a period of time in a dark flour, we're making it less glutinous. We're cooking the glutens out. At this point, I know I'm just about ready, and this is where the nerves of steel come in. But at this point, just about ready to stop it. How are we going to stop it? Well, if I remove it from the heat using cast iron, it's still going to cook. So what I do, at the point where I'm happy with it, I turn the heat to very low. I add the onion, celery, bell pepper very, very carefully. If this splashes up on you, again, it'd be a very severe burn. I'm going to switch over here to a spoon. And as I stir this in, two things are basically happening. Number one, by my onion, celery, bell pepper being water-based vegetables, I'm cooling down and stopping the cooking action of the roux. And number two, my flavor of my onion, celery, bell pepper are now actually being cooked into that oil and flour combination known as a roux. It's very simple to do. It's very easy to do. Again, be very careful with this, but this is the base flavor. This is the flavor that is going to stretch throughout all the entire dish. Huh. Does this smell good? I'm going to add my garlic. I can add my salt and my peppers and anything else to the roux. In fact, I'd prefer to do that because it would cook it in. But with this roux right here, I can almost do anything. This looks so good. You know what this looks like? A gumbo roux. In fact, why not just make a gumbo now? Oh, it's easy, it's simple. Be careful. You talk about a workout doing the roux. I've lost 5 pounds already. But let's do something with the roux. And like I promised you, gumbo. Exactly what is gumbo? Very confusing dish because all gumbos are different. They can be light, they can be dark, they can be thin, they can be thick. If it walks, crawls, swims, flies, slithers, or stays so long enough to grab it, you can use it in your gumbo. I think that's one of the exciting things. A gumbo is a soup-like dish of South Louisiana. I'm going to do a roux-based gumbo, and there are three main categories of gumbo, and each of the categories of gumbo has some historical base of where our food came from. A roux-based gumbo would be the European influence. A filet gumbo, and you've heard the song, jambalaya, crawfish pie, filet gumbo, is nothing more than ground sassafras leaves, and that was shown to us how to use by the Indian, and that's the North American influence. And the okra gumbo would be the African influence. The word gumbo actually comes from the African word for okra, gumba. There are a lot of different variations and a lot of different sayings to this, but we think that the word gumbo comes from okra. However, I'm doing a gumbo with roux. My first step is getting the stock going. After I get my stock going, I'm going to add the roux. So again, we go back to the first premise. First, you make a roux. And I'm going to add the roux into my stock. I have the stock nice and hot. If I don't have a stock, you don't have to worry about it. At least use bouillon cubes or open up a can of broth or use one of these new soup starters. But get some flavor in here. Just please don't add water because water is not going to give you any flavor. We'd prefer a stock, but if you don't do it, again, use bouillon cube or use soup, but get some flavor in here. So in here now I have the roux with the stock. Now I want to add my main ingredients. In this case, my main ingredients are going to be chicken and sausage. The chicken I'm using today, I've cut up the chicken in smaller pieces. We're going to add this now. But I've cut up the chicken in smaller pieces, and I've left the bones in. This way, as this cooks over a period of time, I'm actually making the stock from within, getting all the flavors, not only the chicken, but actually from the marrow and from the bones themselves. And I'm going to add the sausage today. Now, the sausage today is a sausage called andouille. But I can use a kielbasa, I can use Canadian bacon, I can use diced up ham, I can use any sausage that I want to, or at least you use a sausage that tastes good to you. I want to bring this back up to a boil. I want to reduce it to a simmer. And after I reduce it to a simmer, I want to simmer it for approximately an hour and a half. I could take it off and eat it at that point, or I could refrigerate it for a day or two, and it's even going to be better. Always seasoning while going along.
Right before eating, I want to put in some green onions or shallots. We pronounce these shallots, they are the scallions, they are the green onions. We put these on at the end along with parsley, but I'm not going to add parsley. I'm just going to put in my green onions here, or my shallots. And this is the way we'd serve it. Let me give you one other variation, seafood gumbo. If you can find fresh seafood, or if you can afford fresh seafood, get a little loan on the side here, our seafood is going to remain out of this pot until 5 minutes before serving. 5 minutes before serving, we add the seafood, because all the seafood really has to do is poach. We add the seafood, we serve it. This can be served with rice or without rice. Great debates. Well, I don't know if we need to debate the rice issue or not, whether or not we need to have some more workout, but I'll tell you what. A gumbo, the soup of Louisiana, there are millions of variations. You cook it until it's right to you, and I'm going to tell you, you ain't ever going back to nothing else yet. Filet, young dried ground sassafras leaves used in our gumbos as both a flavor enhancer and a thickening agent. But never add filet while your pot of gumbo is on the stove. Add it after it's been removed from the stove, because added before, it's going to string up on you. That's what the word filet means, to make thread, and nobody likes thready gumbo. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Hi there, let me tell you something. If you can't exercise yourself, exercise your chicken. I've heard so much about chicken being fatty, so exercise your chicken. Get this flab off the bottom, but forget about him for a while. Let me show you the best way to take weight off a chicken. Take his wings off. Here are a couple little chicken tips. And why you talk about losing weight. All I'm doing here is showing you a couple little chicken tricks that a lot of people don't know about. And what I'm doing is taking his wings off. Now after I take his wings off, I'm going to cut through the joint that is in between the drumette and this little piece of the chicken that has no name. Has no name because nobody likes it. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it. Two things we can do with it. One, we can cut this off here, cut off the wing tip, put that in our stock, cut through both joints. Now, the two bones in this little part of the middle part of the chicken wing, and that is the technical term, middle part of the chicken wing, you cut through both joints, detach those, push down on the smaller of the two bones. All you have to do is then pull out that small bone, and where the wing tip was attached, push down on that side. Now, sometimes you have to cut around because the tendons are still attached. Cut around there, push down, and there we have our little appetizer. Isn't that cute? Or how about this one? We're going to cut through, again, where the drumette is, and let's not throw away the drumette. We're going to cut around this section right here. And again, push down here. So now we have this part right here. Put those to the side right now. But on where the wing tip is, the middle part of the wing tip, and right here, the wing tip, middle part of the wing, I am going to take and detach and cut through just right there and just through the joint. Then what we do is push down on that small bone, but this time we can also push down on the larger bone. And sometimes you have to detach it. I didn't have to detach it at that point. Push down, and now we have two things. Number one, if you plug this in this side of the television, you have rabbit ears. No, okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to move this bone around. It's just connected to the joint. Pop that out. Again, twist this bone and pop that out. Then what you can do, put it right side in, put any type of stuffing in. You want to put sausage in, you want to put any type of stuffing. Put the stuffing in, grab a little toothpick, in and out just to hold the stuffing in. We can season this, we can stuff it. But the little drumettes that I just did, let me show you the easiest thing. Yes, I can batter, we can fry them. What I like to do is just sprinkle a little seasoning over them. You can barbecue them, you can grill them. You can do anything, but I'll tell you, this is probably the easiest. All you can do is sprinkling with a seasoning mix, place it into the pan. You don't even need any coating on this. And place it in carefully. You always want to place it in carefully. Hot oil sometimes can get on you. After they brown on both sides, we turn them once, brown on one side, brown on the other side, and after you turn them, I'll tell you, we're going to take them out. Let's see if we turn them here. Look at this. This is so quick, so easy, so enjoyable. Browning really depends on not only how brown it is, but it depends on how hot we have our temperature. I like cast iron skillets because I can brown it very quickly because I have it on a higher temperature. If you have it on a lower temperature, obviously it's going to take you a lot longer. Chicken's brown. Let's go ahead and take it out. This is so easy to do. You know, you can flour these and deep fry them. You can flour and pan fry them. So many different things that you can do with the little chicken wings. Put them in a little dip. Serve them to your friends. Put it on the towel to blot it out. After you blot it out and the excess oil runs off, then we can go ahead and put it on a serving dish and serve it. And you know, no matter what happens at any party, if everything else fails and all your preparatory work is all gone kaput, at the very end, you know what you can do? You can wing it. Andouille, boudin, and tasso. Andouille is a sausage, pork sausage, chopped meat instead of ground meat, highly smoked. Some people say similar to kielbasa, but is any Louisiana product superior to all others. The boudin can either be eaten hot or cold, and to stretch out our pork products, both the meat and traces of pork liver, we added rice. Tremendous sausage. Tasso. Highly seasoned thin strips of pork used as a seasoning meat. Whoop! I ate it already. You don't even have to use it as seasoning meat. Just right there. Tasso. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and I think I've had enough. I'll tell you, here I am in my kitchen pumping iron. Kitchen, the best place to be, even if you're going through your workout program. But you know, not only do we love to cook great food, but we love to cook great food in great pots and pans. When I'm talking about great pots and pans, you know, cast iron is just not regular cookware. Cast iron, if we're lucky, we inherit it. It's passed down from generation to generation. So in your kitchen are generations cooking with you, and I think that's part of the fun of being in the kitchen. But you know, a lot of people are afraid of cast iron. They go in a store and there's a wide variety of cast iron. I prefer to buy American cast iron. I like Lodge out of Tennessee, but buy American because it is better cast iron. They're all kind of shapes, they're all kind of sizes. Look at this. This is a daddy cast iron, this is a mommy cast iron, and this is a little baby just born yesterday. It's going to get bigger as time goes on. However, how can we season cast iron and how to take care of it is probably on everybody's mind. Let me tell you the easy way to season cast iron and to take care of it. First, we're going to start with new or old rusted cast iron. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put it in our sink and we are going to scour it. We can use Brillo pads, we can use SOS, we can use sandpaper and a very harsh abrasive detergent. Scour the pot until it is free of any foreign matter. And after we get it free of any foreign matter, now we begin by rinsing it. And I'm not talking about rinsing once or twice. I'm talking about rinsing it as many times as you think that is necessary, and then rinse it twice more. Because if anything is left, any soap is trapped in this porous cast iron, we're going to have problems afterwards. So again, rinse it thoroughly. After it's rinsed thoroughly, towel dry it inside and out, and don't forget the cover. Cover is probably the easiest thing to rust because we forget about it. So let's towel dry everything. Put it on the heat. After it's heated enough to where the sides of the pot are nice and hot, coat it inside and out with lard. Now I prefer lard. You can do this with bacon fat or ham fat. You can do this with oil. My preference is lard. It just seems that it works better. And after you coat it inside and out, wipe it thoroughly with a towel, heat it back up and then shut your heat off. Let it cool down where it's cool enough to now handle. Take it back over to the sink, rinse it out, but never again putting soap in it. I just use water. If I ever need any abrasive, I can use salt as an abrasive and just a cloth or a rag. Take it back out of, rinse it thoroughly, wipe it, towel dry it again, put it back on the heat, bring it up to where the tops again are hot enough, coat it inside and out again with the lard, stick it in an oven, 350 degrees, 60 to 90 minutes, shut it off, let it cool in the oven. You won't have any more problems. Trust me, oh, it's great. And I'll tell you, cast iron, although it may look black right now, this is what you want. Lady once asked me, she said her daughter had wanted to help mommy out and cleaned off her cast iron till it's turned nice and pretty. She wanted to know what could be done. I said, send the daughter to training camp. However, back to our workout program. Yes, indeed. Why wait for a gym? Get into your kitchen and work. 1, 2. You know, remember, this is level 1 workout. Level 2 becomes having full pots, and I think today we're going to cook a jambalaya and maybe even go to the phase 2. But in the meantime, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, welcome to my Creole neighborhood. Today we're going to do jambalaya. Can you say that word? Jambalaya? I know it looks like jambalaya, but let's all try to say it out there all together. Jambalaya. You know, when I cook jambalaya, I'm just a happy person, even if I am in my own Creole neighborhood. And exactly what is jambalaya? I'm going to begin by taking some chicken and putting it in some very hot oil. But the word jambalaya comes from 3 words. The African word for gift, jamba, the la, with, and the ya, rice. Gift with rice. And exactly what was the gift? Well, the gift was leftover food cooked in with the rice. The rice wasn't cooked separately and folded in, but the rice was cooked directly in with the food. And if the rice was cooked directly in the food, our rice is not really a filler, but it's a part of, because it's absorbed the flavor of the food, and now we have flavored rice. So that jambalayas can have anything. I'm going to show you a chicken sausage jambalaya, but anything can go in. I can do a seafood jambalaya or a vegetarian jambalaya using the same basic techniques, little variation. When my chicken is brown on both sides, and I'm browning my chicken really for 2 reasons. Number 1, to pre-cook the chicken, but also I want the flavor of the chicken fat in the oil itself. I'm going to go ahead and add the sausage. What type of sausage? You can use anything. You can use a smoked sausage. You can use an already cooked sausage. The only sausages I personally don't like, and this doesn't make it right. We all have to really know that we have the best taste in the world. When I cook jambalaya, the only 2 sausages I don't like an Italian sausage with fennel, because the fennel is such an overpowering flavor. That's all I taste, and when I put it in my mouth, the fennel will coat it. On the other hand, if I have an Italian sausage without fennel or any other type of sausage, I get all these little explosions. A little dance over here, a little dance over here. That's what eating is about. It's the excitement of eating. That's why we have to cook, so we get the excitement of eating. The only other sausage I don't particularly like to use, bulk sausage. You use bulk sausage, everything falls apart on you. And it becomes stuff. You ever eat stuff and wonder if it's liver? No, I don't want to use any of that. So, never use bulk sausage. Always use case sausage. And use case sausage, you know that it's not liver. After my chicken and sausage have sauteed down somewhat, I'm going to add my onion, celery, bell pepper, better known as the Trinity of Creole cooking. Now, if I add my onion, celery, bell pepper, known as the Trinity of Creole cooking, because there are 3 of them, Trinity, I want to cook this down, and how far I want to cook this down is really up to the individual. Let me put some garlic, which goes everywhere. Some Creoles actually put garlic in their jello. Garlic is not only good for the cardiovascular system, but it's found to be the least expensive and most protective birth control device. Now, after we have and cook all this in, what we're now doing is cooking this down. How far? Well, some people like to cook this down to nothing. If you cook it down to nothing, past will and past transparent, when you add your liquid, everything falls apart. And some people believe the seasoning should be seen, should not be seen, and only be tasted. I believe in seeing the seasoning, so I only cook mine just a couple of minutes. There are 4 keys to this jambalaya, and you follow these 4 simple keys, I guarantee you perfect jambalaya. Key number 1 is going to be the onion, celery, bell pepper to rice ratio. 2 cups of onion, celery, bell pepper, or the equivalent, because if you don't like celery, leave it out. If you don't like bell pepper, leave it out. If you don't like onions, stay away from this recipe, go on to the next recipe. But what I want to do is make sure that my onion, celery, bell pepper, 2 cups of onion, celery, bell pepper to 1 cup of rice, because I'm also adding liquid besides flavor. Key number 2 is the liquid to rice ratio. My liquid to rice ratio, 1.25 cups liquid per cup of long grain rice. 1.25 cups liquid. Now 1.25 cups in itself is not going to cook rice, but coupled with that onion, celery, bell pepper content, we now have enough to cook the rice. And when I talk about the liquid to rice, again, we've got to have a flavored liquid. We just can't have water, because then the rice is just going to taste like water. We want the rice to taste like our products in here. I'm using a chicken stock. If you don't have stock, use bouillon cube. If you don't have bouillon cube, use a can of soup, but at least get some flavor in here. This could have been Mississippi River water for all I know. Seasoning is key number 3. And I don't want to season this to taste, because if I season this to taste, I'm not going to compensate for the uncooked rice. So key number 3 is I want to over-season. The color of my liquid, the brownish color, was gained by adding a little roux to the liquid, and now I have a brownish color to my jambalaya. If we use a spicy seasoning mix, what you want to do is use a mild sausage. If you're going to use a hot sausage, you've either got to cut way back or eliminate your pepper to compensate for that pepper in your hot sausage. So key number 3 is over-season. Key number 4, bring your liquid up to a boil. When it comes up to a boil, we're going to add the rice. When it comes up to a boil, don't bring it to a doctor and have it lance. We want to bring it up to a boil, add the rice, bring it back up to a boil. When it comes back up to a nice rolling boil, all we now have to do is cover it, turn it down to a simmer, and cook for 30 minutes. Now, you know, I can say cover this and don't look for 30 minutes, but you know, and I know, that this covered pot is the pot of paranoia. So I give you a 10-minute peak privilege. And that's also a speech class. If you take this up in 10 minutes and turn the rice, you, number 1, assure yourself of evenly cooked rice. And number 2, if you turned your heat down too low, your rice hasn't begun to cook, turn your heat up. If your rice is cooked in 10 minutes, it meant that you didn't turn it down to a simmer, you had it boiling, which means your rice is finished cooking. Take it off the stove and begin serving. That's all it is, jambalaya. Easy to do, simple to do. Lick your fingers with the seasoning. I'm telling you, what better way can we now go into phase 2 of exercise, but with our jambalaya in the cast iron, and again, pumping iron in the kitchen. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, whew. I'm telling you, after pumping iron for 30 minutes, you're ready for a good meal. And this is jambalaya. Again, the junior pumping iron. Just pick this one up. Ugh, jambalaya. I tell you, to finish this off, I'm going to go ahead and put in some nice green onions. As we talk in Louisiana, we call them shallots. And you stir this in. This is the time where I'd reintroduce my vegetables for my vegetarian jambalaya, the seafood for the seafood jambalaya, fold it in. All it has to do is reheat. Put the cover on it. Now we're ready to serve. And again, always remember, when serving, work out. Let's go to the table. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Rice that smells like popcorn? Well, this is rice developed in Cajun, Louisiana, duck capital of America. You cook it as you would regular long grain rice, but when it cooks up nice and fluffy, it has a popcorn smell, a nutty taste, heaven. Cajun, or Cajun as sometimes they're known, comes from the word Acadian. These were the people who left France in the early 1600s, went to Nova Scotia, in 1755 exiled by the English. They settled down in South Louisiana because we were French by population and welcomed. Their food style is a hearty food style, basically one pot cooking, live off the land. The people is an ethnic group, their music, their lifestyle, fun and as hearty as their food. It's excitement. Winter. Oh, but spring, summer, it's so, oh, excuse me. You know, I thought I was going to talk about the changing of the seasons. But you know what I really want to talk about? The changing of the seasonings, which is even more important. Because the changing of the seasonings means you're going to spice up your life. You're going to give yourself a taste. You're going to give your mouth some pleasure. Let me talk about changing your seasonings. Most people around the country we found only use salt and pepper. That's why they only got these little two shakers on the table. You ever see it? One's salt, one's pepper. You put it in, and that's it. Food just lays there in your mouth. Let's start exciting the palate. This tongue is part of our bodies. We got to give it some pleasure. You can make up your own seasoning blend at home. It's really easy. You look in your cabinet, you see what you have, but you see what you like. The seasoning blend that I'm making today is a very simple one. We consider Creole Cajun seasonings to be something a little piquant, a little spicy. It doesn't have to burn your mouth, but you have to make it to your own heat intensity. I'm using 10 ingredients. I'm using salt, granulated onion or onion powder, granulated garlic or garlic powder, basil, oregano, and thyme, which I all like leafy and dry. I'm using all three peppers. I'm using black, white, and a cayenne pepper. If you don't have cayenne pepper, go ahead and use a hot red pepper. And I'm using these sweet paprika. Now, the reason I say sweet paprika, sometimes you can get a very hot one, and that would increase the heat intensity and make it way too hot. I put it in a food processor. And the reason I put it in a food processor, I want it blended because all the leafy ingredients, basil, oregano, and thyme, would come up to the surface, and I want it blended in. Couple little hits there. Everything is blended in. Now we have a seasoning blend that we can use on anything. I can use this on poultry. I can use it on seafood. Use it wherever you want. But use it in the kitchen. You know, if you lead a dull life right now, use it on yourself. Become a well-seasoned cook. Become, oh, I tell you, let me tell you, seasonings, greetings, ho, ho, ho. You can use it in your kitchen. Spice up your life. I'm telling you, what seasoning can't do for you. Now we're in our own kitchen, well-seasoned cooks all. I tell you, what a little seasoning won't do for your life. But as long as we have the seasoning blend, besides having ourselves seasoned, let's season some barbecued shrimp. I don't know of another dish that is so misunderstood in Louisiana as barbecued shrimp. Why? Because it's not done on a barbecue pit. It doesn't have barbecue sauce. Well, wait a minute. Why do we call it barbecued shrimp? I don't know, but that's what we all call it. So let me show you how we make our version, Louisiana barbecued shrimp. And it's very easy. There are a lot of different recipes, but I think this is the simplest, and it's also, to me, the tastiest. What I'm going to have here is I have butter, garlic, lemon, shrimp, the seasoning mix, Worcestershire sauce, plenty of bread, plenty of napkins, and 2 beers. Now, that's always important. I need 1 beer room temperature and 1 beer cold. So always remember that. And I begin by melting down the butter. And after I melt the butter, I add some garlic. Don't be shy on using the garlic here. And after we have the butter and the garlic, in go the shrimp. Now you notice I have shrimp with heads on. A lot of people think that's disgusting, but let me tell you, that's where the flavor is, in the head. Animal fat has a lot of flavor, and whether it be pork or beef or shrimp. The shrimp have some fat, and the fat is all in the head. So that's why I'm really using the shrimp with the heads on, is that they are going to have this more flavorful because of the fat. And I would like the shells on also. The shells are going to add to the flavor of the overall dish. In goes the warm beer. Not all of it, just a portion. Some Worcestershire sauce.
and some seasoning. Now the seasoning blend that I'm using is the base seasoning along with some black pepper. And I put in 3 parts of the seasoning blend to 1 part black pepper. Mix it up thoroughly and just go ahead and just put that in, yeah. Now, in here, I want the shrimp to cook. And I can tell the shrimp are cooked in really 2 ways. Number 1, I see the peppers begin adhering to the shrimp. And number 2, what's going to happen is the meat and the shell begin to separate, especially along the back part of the shrimp. And if you notice on the back part of the shrimp, when the meat and the shell begin to separate, and there's just a little air pocket here, then the shrimp are going to be done. So watch it very carefully. Give it a little flip to turn the shrimp over. Shrimp is so fresh, you're jumping in the pan, yeah. When the shrimp are just about done, I'm going to add a little bit more butter. Well, a lot more butter. I want the butter to be room temperature because what we want this to do is to form an emulsion. And I want this by actively shaking. I don't want to stir it at this point, but I want to actively shake. And at this point, it's workout time. Ready? Shake 2, shake 3, shake 4. Remember, shake 5. Remember that beer I told you, that cold beer? This is where it comes in. Shake, drink, shake, drink. Switch hands. Should be able to do this with either hand. Shake, drink. Oh, it's one of my favorite exercises here. And I tell you, our workout program going very well because now we have enough to go ahead and serve this. How do you serve it? A lot of people will serve this over rice. Right before I put in, I want to finish it off by putting in some lemon. Fresh squeeze. If you don't, go ahead and just use some lemon juice. Its butter has creamed itself out. And we serve this in a bowl. Now, I want to serve this in a bowl because I have so much of the juice, and that's where it is. It lies in the juice, the flavor. We put some fresh French bread around. Now, if you don't have fresh French bread, you got to find a good one with good sopping tendencies. That's how you sop it up. Whew. A lot of napkins are needed because it's sloppy, but if you don't have shrimp, go ahead and use some boiled chicken in this recipe. Serve it over rice or pasta, and I'm going to tell you, you know, when the bread runs out, use your fingers. I'm going to tell you, what a great dish. Easy to do, simple to do, and again, for us well-seasoned cooks or us well-seasoned shrimp, this is a good one. Let's see. No hair on top. He's got the eyes. He's got a mouth. I just don't understand how somebody could say that. No, I don't think so. Do you think so, really? Do you think if I lost a lot of weight, that I'd look like a shrimp? That's what everybody's saying. But before I'd look like a shrimp, let me tell you what to do if you do encounter a shrimp. A lot of things we can do with shrimp. Barbecued shrimp, fried shrimp. There's so many things, but I'm going to show you probably the most popular shrimp dish, shrimp cocktail. And I'm going to show you a method of boiling shrimp that's kind of new to the industry and worth sharing because it's simple and I'll tell you, perfect boiled shrimp every time. Over here in this pot, I've got some water, plain water. There's no seasoning, there's no salt, there's just plain water boiling. And I've brought it up to a rapid boil and I'm going to add my shrimp. Now these are some nice big shrimp. They're basically what we call 10-count shrimp, 10 to a pound. You don't have to cook shrimp this large, but if you can find it, go ahead and do it. I'm going to bring this back up to a quick boil, and it always helps to put the top back on. If you put the top back on, it'll come to a boil a lot quicker. And always have a timer nearby, because as soon as it comes back to a good rolling boil, that's when I start timing it. 2 minutes. Shrimp, very delicate. 2 minutes. I'm going to take it off, and then we'll finish it up. But in the meantime, let's do a cocktail sauce for our shrimp cocktail. Cocktail sauce, very easy. Ketchup, lemon juice, horseradish, a little Tabasco or hot sauce. In this recipe, I prefer Tabasco. I kind of like the taste. Horseradish, how much? Always to taste. Lemon juice. How much? Well, it's got to be fresh squeezed. If you don't have fresh squeezed, go ahead and use something out of a bottle. Tabasco sauce. How much Tabasco sauce? First, you got to tell if it's fresh. Whew. Fresh. Only a little bit. Okay. Now we have our cocktail sauce. Meanwhile, back at the pot, the water has come back now to a good rolling boil. Let me talk about this for a minute, our concept and what's happening. As anything cooks, it expands. As anything gets cold, it contracts. So basically, everyone who has been boiling their shrimp in a lot of flavored liquid, the flavored liquid really hasn't penetrated anything because it's going outward. So what I've done here is taken a bowl of some flavored liquid. I've put some seafood, liquid seafood seasoning. If you don't have anything else, you're going to boil your water in any type of seasoning that you prefer. Cool it down, put it in some ice. And the theory is after our shrimp are fully cooked, 2 minutes, I'm going to take it off, strain it in a strainer, then I'm going to go ahead and put it in the ice water. As soon as it hits in the ice water, now it's already cooked. Now the ice water stops the cooking, it soaks in the juices, the shell won't set on the shrimp, easy to peel, and fantastic. Let's see how this has worked. You can always tell if a shrimp is cooked by the separation of the shell and the meat right behind the head. Now you notice I'm using shrimp with the heads on. If you don't have the heads, then go ahead and use a shrimp without the heads. One of the good things about using this method is not only am I going to have perfectly cooked shrimp, but you see this liquid I'm draining out? I can use that and save that as a shrimp stock. What a great advantage here. Ooh, these shrimp look so pretty. Put them in the ice water again. They're already fully cooked. We're going to go ahead and stir them in and let them soak. And again, these aren't these are very large, but if they're smaller, they're going to take a little less time, a minute and a half. But again, you don't want to have a cooked seafood too long. I think they've even cooled down right now. We've got some ice cold seasoned water. They have now sucked in the juices. He even likes it. Look at this. Are you good? Good. Okay. A little shaking of the head. Peel it. To peel, I want to first snap off the head. Peel really just the first section. See how easy the peel comes off? Press the tail down here. Just pinch it. You don't even pinch it off. You just have to press. And look at that. Pops right out. Dipping it. Eating it. If you want to serve this on a bed of lettuce, a little cocktail sauce, shrimp cocktail, I'll tell you. The first steamboat arrived in New Orleans in 1812 and was named, but what else? The New Orleans. The steamboat golden age of the Mississippi River was between 1820 and 1870. They were floating hotels carrying people up and down the river. During the 1830s, paddle wheelers would arrive and depart every hour. There are still boats on the Mississippi going anywhere from Cincinnati to New Orleans, or, like the Natchez, riding down Old Man River and listening to the Calliope. Well, I tell you, we talk about an exercise program. Look at all these. This was a swimming exercise, and what happened? They end up on the table. Let's not talk about swimming. Let's talk about fresh fish. Let's talk, which is the best fish we can use for anything. But let's talk about redfish. Around the country, I feel like a reporter here. Yes, sir, around the country. Mr. Harlan Pierce of Harlan's Old New Orleans Seafood House. Redfish have been extinct. I see a lot of redfish.
Right.
Are there a lot of redfish?
Have you ever tried to kill a Cajun? This is a Cajun. Right.
They come back.
French, you know, but no, definitely not extinct by any means. We've got many large schools of redfish in the Gulf of Mexico, and It's just a matter of us getting out there and catching them and getting them into the marketplace. I think a lot of the problems is people would feel that they're going to be extinct because there's so much of it being sold around the country. But heck, it's about time Louisiana got promoted around this.
Well, you know, when you say around the country, everybody, it seems now, is serving blackened redfish. Why the redfish? Why is the redfish good for a blackening technique?
First off, it's from Louisiana now.
Well, it means better than any other product in the world.
I'd rather eat a Cajun than not. But basically, you got to come into our waterways and our estuary. We've got 1/4 of the growing area for seafood in the United States off the coast of Louisiana. What that means is we've got a solid blackish, fresh and salt water, back and forth motion. The Gulf comes in, the river comes in, out, blows it out again. And we've got a good growing area for seafood that produces a good lean fleshed fish with a firm texture. Now, there's a lot of these lean fleshed fish with firm texture across the country, but in Louisiana, the redfish is the fish that we're using for this blackening technique. It doesn't mean it's the only fish you can blacken, but it's lean, very low in fat, no oil content to speak of, and just the right oil, not heavy oil. And the texture is such that it's not going to fall apart in your black cast iron skillets.
So it's a firm fish.
Right. It's going to take some abuse in the pan. It's going to grill. It'll stay on a grill, whatever. So you need a fish that is firm flesh so it'll handle that abuse. You need a fish that's not fatty, so it doesn't be pumping all this fat out when it hits that griddle real quick like a piece of bacon or something. And you need a fish that's very low in oil content so that you don't get too much oil in that when you're cooking it, because it doesn't work that way either. But basically, the redfish is the king when it comes to that. But basically, it's the king because this is what we started with. But there's many more fish like this.
If people can't get redfish and fresh redfish, and again, we want to do it with fresh fish, other parts of the country, what would you suggest?
Well, in all areas of the country, you're going to have your firm flesh fish. If you're a swordfish lover, swordfish will blacken. If you're a tuna fish lover, tuna fish will blacken.
But you got to take it out of the can first.
Depends upon your personal preference.
Oh, okay.
If you want to eat the can,
little tinny flavor.
Whatever. Yeah. Some people like, we like hot pepper. They might like tin. But you've got rock cod that will blacken. You've got many, many varieties of fish. It's just as long as it's firm, fairly lean, and not too oily, you should not have any problems. And any of your local purveyors should be able to answer these questions for you. If you can't, get a hold of you, Joseph, and we'll make sure they get the right answers.
Okay, well, we can blacken a lot of different fish. We can talk to our fish. What we want to do, however, is use fresh fish. I think the key is Louisiana. Louisiana is the best. And as long as we say that, Louisiana, love your fish, love it both in the pan. And have you hugged your fish lately? Oh, I just love my trout.
Whoa! Wait a minute. This isn't redfish on fire. This is called blackened redfish. I'll tell you, all over the country, this is the newest dish of America. Blackened redfish. And it's not called burnt redfish, and yet all the travels that I have done and people have written me and said, what's so good about burnt redfish? We're talking about char in the outside. The seasoning is charred and the inside is nice and tender and juicy. What is redfish? Well, redfish actually is a red drum. A lot of people know it as a channel bass. But the same technique can be used in blackening steak, pork chop. Blacken your favorite ingredient, because what we're doing, again, we're charring and leaving the inside tender, especially if you like rare or medium rare. It's probably one of the finest things you can do with steak. Why it works so well with seafood is we got that nice, tender, flaky inside. How simple it is to do? I'm telling you, it's simple. We don't know who invented this dish, but I'll tell you what, Paul Prudhomme was the one who made it popular. Around the country on menus, over and over again, you see the blackened redfish. Let me show you how easy it is to do at home. First of all, you want something that you can do this outside. I have a nice propane unit, and of course you want a cast iron skillet. And again, American is the best. This is Lodge. This is a Cajun cooker right here. But you want something outside. If you don't have one of these units, what you can do is take the grill, the grating off of your barbecue pit, put the cast iron right in the coals, let it get as hot as you possibly can, 20, 30 minutes. It can never get too hot. All we're going to do is take a piece of fish, or whatever we're going to blacken, we're going to dip it in butter. Not margarine, butter. Margarine is an M word. We don't like to use that. We're looking for taste. We're looking for taste. Seasoning blend. We've talked about that before.
we're going to sprinkle. We don't want to pack it in. And I watch people just lay this in and pack it. You don't want to pack it in. You want to sprinkle it in. About 2 minutes on one side, minute and a half on the other side. This looks gorgeous. Got that one finished. This is so easy to do for a party. I'll tell you, before you use it again, always wipe it out. Get any of the burnt residue, especially the seasoning. Again, you notice the smoking? Don't do this in your kitchen. You're going to do this outside. You can serve this with drawn butter. You don't have to serve with drawn butter. No wonder this is the greatest dish of America today. You know why? It tastes so good. Huh. Poor boys and muffaladas. Not only are they sandwiches, but they're entire meals. A poor boy can have anything on it. We can have shrimp, oyster poor boys, ham and cheese poor boys, even a French fry poor boy. And a poor boy is the meal between the New Orleans style French bread. I've got a roast beef poor boy dressed, lettuce and tomato on it. Over here, a muffalata. On muffalata, bread can feed 1 to 4. A muffalata has ham, salami, provolone cheese, and Italian olive salad that's been soaking in olive oil, and then we brush a little of the olive oil on top with the garlic, put it on top. Sandwiches and meals, Nolan style. The French Quarter, also known as the Vieux Carré or Old Square, is the home of Jackson Square, Bourbon Street, world-famous restaurants, jazz, the French Market, voodoo, and horse-drawn carriages. More than 7 million visitors a year come to the Vieux Carré to eat some of the best food in the world. The French Quarter, the old city, the heart and soul of New Orleans. One, two. 1 and 2. 1 and keep that swizzle straight, and 1, 2, 1, 2. Ha! Aerobic stirring. I tell you, what a heavy exercise, aerobic stirring. And where am I doing it? Look at this. Paradise in the heart of the French Quarter, 40 paces from Jackson Square. I'm in the courtyard of the Place d'Armes Hotel. You can't get any better than this. You come to New Orleans, what a great place to stay. A little bit of heaven, and in this little bit of heaven, let me show you a heavenly cocktail. It said the cocktail originated in New Orleans, and let me show you the cocktail of all cocktails, the Sazerac. Let me show you how easy it is to make. In one glass, I have some ice cubes that I've been doing my aerobic stirring. That's to chill down the glass. In the other glass right here, I'm going to begin by using a little simple syrup. Just a little simple syrup. 3 drops of a Peychaud bitter, 1 drop of Angostura, and you're going to say, does it matter if you have both? You need both types of bitter, both the Peychaud and the Angostura. 1 jigger exactly. That's experience of a good rye whiskey. You don't want to use a bourbon. You want to use a good rye whiskey. Over here in the chilled glass, dump out the ice. I'm going to coat it with herb saint. In the old days, it was done with absinthe. It's hard to say, isn't absinthe make the heart go fonder? Have enough of these drinks, and believe me, it's going to grow every which way. We're going to coat this. We're going to throw away the herb saint. Now with this, I'm going to put in the Sazerac cocktail. I'm going to twist a little lemon juice just for the essential oils. Don't make a sin and drop it in. And now, after a heavy workout program, a little refreshments. Aerobic stirring. Whew. Really do need a workout. This workout is called breaking up stale bread. Why should I even break it up? Because I'm going to make some bread pudding. But you know, stale bread is good for other uses. People sometimes use it in major league parks, baseball bats. There are policemen who use it as billy clubs, but not us. We're going to use it on workout program, and we're going to break it up for bread pudding. Why do I want some hard, old, stale bread? Because that's what makes the best bread puddings. A lot of bread puddings call for day-old bread, and if you use day-old bread, the day-old bread contains moisture. All the bread pudding really is a custard mixture with bread.
If I have day-old bread that contains moisture, I have a damp sponge. If I have totally dry or stale bread, it's a dry sponge, absorbs the custard mixture and becomes a part of. So whatever you do in whatever type of bread, you can use cinnamon rolls and Danish, you can use croissants, and you can use all those in the same bread pudding, but at least have your bread dry. And if your bread isn't dry to begin with, you're going to have a soggy bread pudding. So at least stick your bread in the oven to dry it out. Milk, eggs, butter, sugar. That's the beginning of our bread pudding, and that's just basically a custard mixture. I'm using milk. You can use milk, whipping cream, pina colada mix to make it richer. Remember, calories add character. The eggs are probably the biggest variable to any bread pudding. I'm using 3 eggs, but you can use 4 eggs or 5 eggs. I think anywhere 3 to 6 eggs makes a good variation. You can take the eggs and put them out and whip them beforehand. I didn't whip them because they didn't do anything bad to me, so I just put them in. The sugar. I'm using regular white granulated sugar, although I could use brown sugar. I could use honey instead of sugar, or if I really wanted to, I could use any sugar substitute, any sweetener. I can do this for a person on a restricted diet. So any type of sweetening agent will do. Butter, not margarine, butter. Butter tastes so good. So in here, the butter, the sugar, milk, and the bread, until what we have in here is very moist, but not soupy. Very moist, but not soupy. This is what I consider the base. Now I'm going to put in the paints. I'm going to put in today raisins, coconut, and pecans. You have to be very careful on using exact measurements. There are a lot of people who just toss things in casually, not knowing how much you're putting in. It's exactly a cup of each, because I have a half-cup hand. If you don't know what size your hand is, measure it. It's not good for hot oil or milk, though, but measure it dry measure. The advantages are tremendous. Number 1, you always know where it is. You don't have to look for it. Number 2, easy to keep clean. Pecans. Please add pecans and not pecans. And if you don't know the difference by now, let me explain to you. A pecan is found in a shell and used for a culinary purpose. A pecan is found underneath your bed and used for an emergency purpose. If anybody ever offers you pecan pie, run. So in here, I have all of my ingredients. I'm now going to add some vanilla, Creole vanilla, meaning it's better than any other. Creole nutmeg and Creole cinnamon. But if you don't like raisins, coconut, pecan, cinnamon, vanilla, or nutmeg, the variations are incredible. I can do this with apples or bananas or peaches or pears. I can do a chocolate bread pudding using chocolate milk, chocolate chips, and little Hershey bars and 3 Musketeers. So I can do this any way at all. After I get my mixture together, I want to place this in a buttered dish. Now I can do this either in Corning or Pyrex or just throw away aluminum. This is a great dish to multiply out. 2 or 3 batches at a time. Put in a throwaway aluminum turkey roaster. We put it into the pan. Very moist, not soupy. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sprinkle this with a little coconut and a little garnish here. And after I sprinkle a little coconut and garnish, always mess up your counter so it looks like you've been working very hard on this. Always tasting. Stick your finger in, taste, cover over the finger hole, nobody will know. Now all there is left to do is cook it. And all we now are going to do is place it in our oven. Look at that, I left something in the oven. We're always doing that at home, aren't we? Leaving a little of this, a little of that. You know what's in here? This is the cast iron that we put into season. It's already beginning now to turn brown, and the use over and over is going to turn it black. Just one little pumping iron, one. But now, back to the bread pudding. In the oven it goes. I prefer to place this on a middle rack. I want to cook this at 350 degrees for approximately an hour to an hour and 30 minutes, or until it forms a nice golden brown crust on top. You don't have to stick it with a toothpick. You don't have to stick it with a knife, because what we want in there is moist. The other techniques are cake testing, and I want bread pudding, not bread cake. Close the oven.
An hour to an hour and a half, we're ready to eat it, but wait a minute. I forgot we need some sauce. Let's get back and do the sauce now. Jog in place, jog in place, jog in place, jog in place. Whew, what a run. All the way from the oven over here, but I've run really quickly to do my sauce. Now, there are a lot of sayings that you can do a whiskey sauce or a bourbon sauce or rum sauce, and it's all done the same way. I begin with melted butter and add enough powdered sugar to the melted butter to make a very thick paste. When the butter absorbs the powdered sugar, I'm going to add an egg yolk. And I've removed this from the fire only because when you add an egg yolk over the open fire, you sometimes have a problem that the egg will cook and then you'll have scrambled egg sauce, which isn't too appealing on my bread pudding. And after I now stir this in and whip this in, I now have, looks like an icing. And I love icing. I put this back on the stove and add whatever it is that I want to complement the bread pudding with. I'm going to add a little amaretto today. But I can add bourbon, I can add rum, I can add whatever I want, blueberry, blackberry liqueurs, or if I don't want anything alcoholic, you can always add a little lemon juice. If you add lemon juice, thin it out with water, and a tremendous lemon sauce. This doesn't, by the way, get anybody drunk because the alcohol dissipates in the cooking mode. And as it does, we begin to pick up our workup program again. That's workout program by breathing deeply. 1, 2. Who says it's not fun to be in the kitchen all the time? 3, 4. The bread pudding finish, you notice the nice coloring, nice brown coloring on top. Again, the inside nice and moist. Isn't it incredible what we can do from stale bread to a glorious dessert? That's the fun part about Nolan's cooking, is we take the simplest of ingredients and make it into the finest of all desserts, a little sauce, and here we have a portion fit for a king. Well, I'm going to give this to the king. I'm only a prince. I'm going to have this. The Superdome, or the giant muffalata, built in a downtown area, it sits on about 10 acres of land and adds 27 stories to the city skyline. The Dome is the most versatile public facility in the world. It not only hosts the Saints football team and other sports attractions, but also rock concerts, trade shows, and Mardi Gras balls. Talk about a workout. Let's show you a workout. Carrying a tray of Bananas Foster to entertain your friends. What a better workout can anybody have? But let's talk about Bananas Foster. One of the greatest ways to end a spectacular evening of treating your friends in your own home. Bananas Foster is easier to do than Jell-O. I get so excited about Bananas Foster because it's so healthy. Here it is, using a fruit, bananas, to really get healthy. Well, we are using butter and brown sugar, a little banana liqueur, and a little rum, but after the workout of bringing a tray here, we're all set. So let's talk about Bananas Foster. Let me show you how easy it is. You don't need anything elaborate, but you do want some nice things. I have a tray from the Queen of England. This little dish right here was given to me by the President. I'm very proud of that. Nancy now has one less place setting. This spoon was given to me, interesting enough, by the mayor. I have the spoon of the city. I can taste in any place. I'm cooking today on nothing really special because it's only a $5 backpack stove from Sterno. Very nice, very easy to use. You can even use this as an auxiliary chafing dish if you ever need one. But this isn't so unattractive that you can't put it on all your fancy ware, bring it out to your guests, and now let's start doing Bananas Foster. All we need to do Bananas Foster is we're taking half a stick of butter tonight and starting the butter melting. You know, the easiest way to do this, of course, is lighting the fire. So first we have to light the fire. Cold Bananas Foster just doesn't get it. As the butter begins to melt, and we want the butter to be room temperature, because if your butter isn't room temperature, it's going to take a little while longer, but the butter is now melting, so we go ahead and add the brown sugar. For every half stick of butter, I use 1 cup of dark brown sugar. I can use the light brown sugar, but I prefer the dark brown sugar because it makes a nice, deep, rich paste. You see how beautiful that looks? While all this is going on, I now begin adding the bananas. And beforehand, in the kitchen,
I want to take my bananas and make a very simple presentation. Let me show you how easy this is. A lot of people will just cut the bananas lengthwise and put 2 halves in each bowl. But what I like to do is cut off both ends, cut through the skin, not through the banana, but just through the skin, peel off 1/2 of the skin, so it sort of acts as its own cutting board, and just slice it up in the classic Rice Krispie slice. Put the top back on. Now, nobody knows you have your bananas already cut up. And as you bring your tray out, you're doing this in the kitchen. You're putting these on the back side so that when we're ready to put this in, all we're doing now is taking the banana, peeling, you have to look really hard, peeling the banana and putting it in. Everybody's saying, wait a minute, how did you do that? And you say, oh, my grocer does that for me, doesn't yours? Let's get some jealousy involved in our own presentations here. So now we have the butter, we have the brown sugar, and the bananas. Now I add the banana liqueur. It's a nice little alternative. If you don't want to do this with bananas, go ahead and use strawberries and use strawberry liqueur in rum. I can do this with peach and peach brandy in rum. So there are all kind of different variations off the same theme. I'm putting 1/2 ounce of banana liqueur per person. I'm putting 1 ounce of rum per person. And now I have a sauce. When the sauce gets hot enough, and I know when it's hot enough, when it starts to bubble, because I know that the alcohol is now vaporizing, now it's ready to light. And as it's ready to light, I want to light it by lighting itself. And I'm going to pull this back and have the flames jump in. But before you do this, what you have to do is create atmosphere in your own home. And so all you have to do, instead of saying, please turn off the lights, you just snap your finger and say, lights off. Doesn't that look good, huh? Now, as I pull this back, you notice the flame is jumping into the pan, and now we've got to keep it agitated. You've got to keep this moving. If you don't keep this moving, the flame is going to immediately go out. So keep this moving and have a long spoon. If you don't have a long spoon, you're going to have a long doctor's bill with this one. So have a long spoon and keep it stirring. Now I'm going to put a little voodoo dust, a little gree-gree powder. If you don't have gree-gree powder or voodoo dust, use ground cinnamon. Look how pretty it is. And if at this point you want to go and utter chants, everybody will think you're a great culinarian and a witch doctor. At this point, I want to stop the flaming. And as I stop the flaming, all I have to do is stop the stirring. And at this time, I say, lights on. And look at that. Here we are back. Lights on, a little magic, and now I have Bananas Foster. All I now have to do is serve it with some ice cream. We put this over the nice cold ice cream. We serve this. Is there anything better in the world to share with your friends than a dessert that you just made? If there is, I don't know about it. Bananas Foster. Well, we're going to take this to the table, but while we're walking to the table, don't stop your workout program. So let's hear it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.